Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving into the world of research data. Now, I know that word can sound a little official, a little intimidating, like it's only for scientists and big white lab coats. But honestly, it's way simpler than it sounds. It's really just the evidence behind everything we read. And by the time we're done here, you'll know exactly how to spot it and, more importantly, how to question it. So let's just start right there with the big question. You hear it all the time, in news reports, in articles, in studies. Everything is supposedly built on data. But what does that word really mean when we get down to it? It's actually super simple. Data is just evidence. That's it. It's the raw material, the building blocks, that a researcher gathers up to try and answer a question. It could be a number, it could be a word, it could be an observation. If it's collected as part of a search for an answer, well, that's data.
Okay, so once a researcher has their big question, they hit their first major fork in the road, and it's a huge one. Do I go out and get brand new information myself, or do I use information that's already out there, that someone else collected? This one choice completely shapes the rest of the journey.
So if they decide to roll up their sleeves and collect it all themselves, that's what we call primary data. It's totally new, it's original, and this is key, it's gathered for the one specific purpose of their study. Think of it like cooking a meal from scratch. You go to the store, you pick every single ingredient yourself. You know exactly what went into that dish and why.
The other path, of course, is using secondary data. This is information that's already sitting on a shelf somewhere. Somebody else, for their own reasons, at an earlier time, did all the hard work of collecting it. This is kind of like using a jar of pasta sauce. It's way faster and super convenient, right? But you didn't have any say in the original ingredients.
And this right here is the fundamental trade-off. Going the primary data route gives you total control. It's custom built for your project. The downside? It can take a ton of time and, let's be real, a lot of money. Using secondary data is the express lane. It's faster, it's cheaper, but you're taking a gamble on the quality, and it might not be a perfect match for what you need.
Let's make this real for a second. Say you run your own experiment on stress levels. The scores you get from your participants, that's your primary data. You made it. But now, say you go to the Australian Bureau of Statistics website and download a huge data set on the population. That's secondary data. The difference is just that simple. One you made and one you found.
All right, so you've made choice number one, your data or theirs. Now comes the second big decision, and this one is all about the form your evidence will take. Are you going to be working with numbers or are you going to be working with words? First up is quantitative data. And the name kind of gives it away, doesn't it? It's all about quantity. This is anything you can put a number on. We're talking test scores, height, weight, temperature, anything that answers the question, how much or how many. On the flip side, we have qualitative data. This isn't about numbers, it's about the qualities or the nature of something. It's descriptive. Think interview transcripts, direct quotes, photographs, or videos of people's behavior. It doesn't tell you how many, it tells you what's it like.
Now here's a crucial point. A researcher doesn't always have to choose just one. In fact, some of the most powerful research out there comes from blending the two. But let's look at a really classic and pretty intense example of this in action. You've probably heard of Stanley Milgram's famous obedience experiments. Well, he collected amazing data of both types. He recorded the maximum voltage that a person was willing to deliver to someone else. That's a hard number, so that's quantitative data. But he also took incredibly detailed notes and even filmed people sweating, stuttering, and arguing with the experimenter. Those are descriptions. They capture the quality of the experience. That's qualitative data. The numbers told him what people did, but the descriptions told him how they felt while they were doing it. See how powerful that is?
Okay, we've got one last layer to peel back on this whole data thing. This final distinction isn't about who gathered the data or whether it's a number or a word. This is about its very nature. Is it a hard, observable fact, or is it a personal feeling?
Objective data is fact-based. It's information that, in theory, anyone can see, measure, and verify for themselves. You know, like a heart rate, a brain scan, or a blood pressure reading. Another researcher could come in and get the exact same measurement. It's free from personal judgment, which is why it's often seen as the gold standard in science. But then you have subjective data. This comes from inside a person's head. It's their personal experience, their opinions, their interpretations, their feelings. A researcher can't directly see or measure it. We just have to take their word for it.
This example just nails the difference perfectly. A researcher can strap a heart monitor to Lucy and see that her heart rate is 165 beats per minute and that she's breathing fast. That's objective data. It's a measurable biological fact. But when Lucy says, "I feel anxious," that's her subjective data. Only she knows that feeling. One is an outside observation, the other is an inside report. Both are incredibly valuable pieces of evidence.
So we've got these different ways of looking at data: primary versus secondary, quantitative versus qualitative, and objective versus subjective. But they're not separate buckets. The real magic happens when you understand how they all fit together. This is where it all clicks. Just look at this grid. This makes it all so clear. If you collect your own scores from an experiment, that's data you made primary, and it's numerical, quantitative. So it's primary, quantitative. If you conduct your own interviews and record what people say, that's primary, qualitative. Now let's say you use someone else's stuff, a government report full of statistics, that's secondary, quantitative. And if you analyze the text in a bunch of old journal articles, that's secondary, qualitative. See? Every piece of evidence fits somewhere in this puzzle. All right, you've been listening patiently. Time for a little pop quiz. Let's say a researcher is watching a documentary on YouTube. The film shows participants from an old experiment talking about how they felt. What kind of data is that researcher working with? No pressure, just think it through. Who made it and what's it showing? So did you get it? Let's break it down. First, it's definitely secondary data. Why? Because our researcher didn't make the documentary, they just found it on YouTube. And second, it's qualitative data, because the focus is on people's responses, their words, their feelings, their descriptions, not on hard numbers. If you got that, nice one. So why does any of this stuff really matter? What's the bottom line? It's this. Understanding these categories helps you go from just passively accepting information to being an active, critical thinker. It hands you the toolkit to look at a headline or a new study and ask, wait a minute, what's the actual evidence here? And that's really the challenge I want to leave you with. The next time you're scrolling and you see a news story with a big statistic, just pause for a second. Ask yourself, whose data is this? Did they collect it or did they find it? And is it a number or is it a description? Just asking those simple questions is the first step to becoming a much smarter, more critical consumer of information in the world around you. Thanks for joining me.